So we've seen a lot of games being called the Skyrim Killer, each promising to capture the magic that made Skyrim endure for over a decade. But I never would have expected that the game to finally take that throne would not be the Elder Scrolls VI, but actually the former entry in the series, Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. Oblivion was my first Elder Scrolls game, but I only played a few hours when it first came out, and I never got that far into it. For me, it was Skyrim that would fully capture my life for thousands of hours, leading me to spend days and nights modding it with hundreds of different playthroughs in numerous scenarios. So as I look at the Oblivion Remaster, I'm looking at this from the eyes of a player coming from Skyrim, hoping to lose themselves anew in the world of Tamriel like it was the first time all over again. When I heard that Oblivion Remastered was going to be using the Unreal Engine, I assumed this meant it wouldn't have any mod support. I use Unreal Engine 5 regularly at work, so I know from experience that UE5 uses completely different code, and the systems wouldn't be compatible with the creation kit that modders traditionally use for Bethesda games. And so I quickly discounted this remaster, thinking it couldn't possibly be a serious replacement for Skyrim. After all, mods are a massive part of what's kept Skyrim alive for all this time. But the developers did something I wasn't expecting. They essentially Frankensteined the game to be able to run on the Unreal Engine while still utilizing the original engine underneath. And what this means is that the game retains the same modability that Bethesda games have been known for, while also gaining the benefits of a modern engine like Unreal Engine 5. One of the biggest benefits of running in UE5 is a huge graphical improvement, which struck me right away as I stepped out of the tutorial area and had the beautiful landscape revealed to me. UE5's lighting and detail is also super noticeable as you walk through structures or delve into dungeons below. The animations have been updated as well, and I think the character movement is noticeably smoother, although the sprinting animation feels a bit awkward. I was worried that these updated animations would come with some reverse kinesthetics or other modern momentum-based movement systems that might sacrifice a bit of the responsiveness. If you played the demo for the new Gothic remake, you might know what I'm talking about. But no, the controls feel pretty much exactly the same as Skyrim, and I assume also the original Oblivion. I mean, right out the gate, running through the tutorial, it felt like I was home. The controls just clicked and worked exactly as I expected. Well, almost. There are a few quirks with the UI, but I'll go into those later. Okay, let's talk about combat. I just finished watching a video from Shadowversity where they talk about how disappointed they were that the combat wasn't updated to be more in line with games like Elden Ring. And yeah, that would be great. I do love the combat in Elden Ring, but I think that's a personal choice that should be left for mods, not something to be forced on everyone trying to enjoy the remaster. As it is now, I'd say the attacks initially behave pretty much the same as you'd expect from any Elder Scrolls game. You click the attack button, and your weapon waves in front of you from left to right. But you do have some new combinations. I haven't tested every weapon yet, but at least with the short sword, you have a 4-attack combo that swings right, left, then overhead, and ends with a thrust. You can also perform a lunging thrust at any time if you're pressing forward during a strong attack. Holding left or right during a strong attack also gives you a sort of retreating slash. So all in all, the combat is still basically in line with Skyrim, and not at all as versatile as something like Dark Souls. But I think there's still enough choices to be made with options like thrusting, sidestepping, and so on, which give the combat some rewarding mechanics to master beyond just swinging your sword from side to side. It's also worth mentioning that dodging, shield bashing, and possibly some other maneuvers are unlocked later as your skills increase. Alright, so this is one area I'm not super happy with. You see, at the default Adept difficulty, my attacks feel about right. An enemy goes down in about 2 to 4 hits, which is more or less what I'd expect from swinging a dangerous weapon like an axe or a sword. But the player hardly takes any damage, which makes the encounters really lack any challenge. But beyond that, it also just totally breaks my immersion to have an NPC smash my face with a giant sledgehammer, only to have a fraction of a centimeter chipped away from my health bar. Scaling up to Expert makes the enemies do 3 times more damage, which is essentially what I want. But then, my damage is reduced to about a third of what it was, making the enemies more spongy. And if you go up to Master, then the enemies do 5 times their original damage, while your damage is reduced to a fifth. I understand the sort of old school idea of difficulty, where you just make enemies stronger and players weaker to scale things up. But nowadays, most people don't enjoy bullet sponges. And especially for people looking for more immersive, fast-paced combat, like what I often modded Skyrim to be via mods like Deadly Combat or Smilodon, increasing the overall lethality of attacks is more desirable than just making the game hard for hardness sake. Okay, I mentioned there were a few quirks with the UI, but before I get into that, if you've made it this far into the video, thanks for watching, and I hope you can allow me a moment to promote something of my own. My friend and I have been working on a game called Delve Survivors. It's a classic roguelike, combined with the fast-paced action of a horde survivor. It's on Steam right now, so if you want some old-school action with a modern twist, go give it a wishlist. It's one of the best ways to support a small team like ours. Thanks again, and now back to the video. When you loot in Skyrim, you can take individual items by pressing E. But for some reason, in this Oblivion Remaster, we only have a take-all option, and if you want to take things individually, you have to use your mouse. Also, some menus like the wait or sleep menu don't let you select the hours with WASD, even though you can use the arrow keys. And it feels weird being able to navigate the level up menu with W and S, but you can't add or subtract points with A and D, even though, once again, you can do this with the arrow keys. These are relatively small issues, but it can be frustrating over time, especially when you're quickly sorting through loot or interacting with shops, and you have to constantly move your hand back and forth between the mouse and WASD keys to press Enter, Escape, or the arrow keys. This is what makes the Oblivion Remaster feel like home, and why even just a few weeks after release, I'm fully convinced that I've found the game to truly scratch that Skyrim itch. We've had so many open-world RPGs since Skyrim, but it always felt like something was missing. Skyrim, Oblivion, and now the Oblivion Remaster have an incredible ability to pull you in with things you don't expect, to draw you into a sense of wonder and exploration. You decide to do one thing, but curiosity pulls you into something else. In most modern open-world games, you'd have quest markers everywhere leading you by the nose, but after exiting the tutorial, I had only one objective in my mind: deliver the amulet I had just received to King Joffrey. But along the way, I ran into some bandits, and after gifting myself some of their armor, I noticed a door to a cave, or perhaps a mine. Maybe this was their hideout. Next thing I know, I'm exploring caves, finding a horse, fighting with skeletons and goblins, and 20 hours in, I finally remember what my original goal was.
Emperor Uriel? Do you know something about his death?
I wasn't expecting to get distracted by the bandits or the cave. It was a distraction, but a natural distraction, and it felt good. That's the beauty of this style of RPG. Quests and exploration happen organically. It makes me feel like a kid again, exploring the park to see what I might find under that next rock, or behind that cluster of trees. You're led by your curiosity more than a bunch of checklist icons. Even though I didn't play much of the original, my gamer instincts from playing Skyrim fit right in here. And being in the world of Tamriel again is bringing me back to all those core gaming memories and feelings of wonder. And my lack of experience with the original Oblivion is actually adding to my enjoyment, since this makes it feel like a whole new adventure with all the charm of the past, but also giving it a modern feel like the sequel I always hoped for. We've been waiting for over a decade for Elder Scrolls 6, and honestly, with the state of modern gaming, I started to lose hope that a new Elder Scrolls would even be worth it. But if this remaster is any indicator of the future of this franchise, I think we may still have decades of adventures yet to come. So anyways, this has been Yaz. Until next time, live boldly and play more games.